Everyone thought Russia was finished, a defeated empire, a fading shadow at the edge of Europe. The West believed the collapse of the Soviet Union ended the story, that Russia would drift quietly into irrelevance, too broken to rise, too divided to matter, too weak to challenge the world again. They were wrong. Today, the world is watching something far more unsettling unfold. Russia didn't collapse. Russia recalibrated. Russia endured. And now, Russia is trying to outlast the West. The end of the Cold War was supposed to be the beginning of a new world. Freedom, prosperity, peace. But inside Russia, the collapse of the Soviet Union wasn't a celebration. It was a catastrophe. Russia lost half its population overnight. Former republics became independent nations. Industries collapsed, savings evaporated, crime surged, life expectancy fell, and the national pride of a superpower evaporated. The West saw liberation, Russians saw loss. Putin later called it the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the century, not because of communism, but because Russia went from an empire to a humbled nation struggling to feed itself. That humiliation planted the seeds for everything Moscow pursues today. As Russia struggled through the 1990s, something else was happening. The West moved closer. NATO welcomed Poland, Hungary, the Baltic states, Romania, Bulgaria, countries that once lay firmly inside Moscow's sphere of influence. Western leaders said it was voluntary. Eastern Europeans said it was protection. Russia saw it differently. To Moscow's elites, this wasn't cooperation. It was encirclement. Missile defense systems in Eastern Europe. Western-backed revolutions in Georgia and Ukraine. American troops rotating through Poland and the Baltics. A new line was forming across Europe. And Russia felt increasingly like it stood alone, shrinking, cornered. A collision was becoming inevitable. The first crack in the old order came in 2008. Russia invaded Georgia. A short war, a brutal demonstration. A message to the West that Moscow still had claws. But the real turning point came in 2014. Mass protests in Kiev toppled a pro-Russian leader. Moscow responded immediately. It seized Crimea, then fueled a separatist war in eastern Ukraine. Why such a dramatic reaction? Because in the Russian worldview, Ukraine is not just another country. Its history, its identity, its strategic depth. Losing Ukraine to the West, for Russia, would be like the United States losing Canada. Unthinkable. So Moscow redrew borders by force, reigniting a geopolitical rivalry the world hoped was gone forever. Then came the moment that changed the world. February 24, 2022. Russia launched the largest land invasion Europe had seen since World War II. Many expected Kiev to fall within days. But Ukraine resisted, brutally, fiercely, relentlessly. Russian logistics collapsed, convoys stalled. Thousands of soldiers died. Western weapons poured in, javelins, hammers, leopards, patriots. Russia was pushed back from Kiev, then Kharkiv, then Kherson. The Blitz failed. For many countries, this would have been the end. But Russia didn't crumble. It adapted. The war transformed into something older, something darker, something far more dangerous. A war of attrition. Attrition is not glamorous, it's not fast. It's not heroic. It is survival versus exhaustion. Russia shifted its entire strategy. Trench networks stretching for hundreds of kilometers. Drones striking depots, vehicles, and even individual soldiers. Guided aerial bombs smashing urban defenses. Waves of infantry assaulting small villages and tree lines. Advances measured in meters, not miles. Painfully slow, horrifically costly, but effective in grinding down Ukraine and the West's patience. Russia's belief is simple. We have more people. We can suffer more losses. We can fight longer. Ukraine, meanwhile, relies on Western ammunition, Western money, Western politics. Russia is betting that democracies eventually get tired, long before Moscow does. Inside Russia, everything has changed. Civilian factories converted to military production. Consumer industries slowed or collapsed. Defense spending reached levels not seen since the Soviet era. This wasn't just mobilization. It was transformation. The Kremlin presents it as patriotism, a necessary step to defend the nation. But the truth is more complicated. Prices are rising. Skilled workers are being drafted. Wealth gaps are widening. Shortages appear in basic sectors. Russia is surviving, but at a cost that grows every month. Still, in the short term, the wartime economy works. It produces weapons. It fuels the front lines. It keeps the system moving. And for a war of attrition, the short term is all that matters. Sanctions were supposed to crush Russia within months, cutting banks off from SWIFT, freezing billions in assets, blocking microchips, engines, machine tools, aircraft parts. The West expected economic collapse. Instead, Russia adapted. Oil was shipped east. Gas was sold at discounts. A shadow fleet of old tankers moved crude across oceans outside Western oversight. China and India became energy lifelines. Turkey, the Caucasus, and Central Asia became trade hubs. New smuggling networks appeared for electronics and industrial components. Sanctions hurt deeply, but they didn't break the country. However, beneath the surface, long-term damage is accumulating. Tech shortages, falling productivity, budget strains, growing dependency on China. Industrial decay in key sectors. Russia can endure sanctions for years, but not without consequences that will echo for decades. As Russia drifted from the West, it found new partners. Not allies, exactly, but useful companions. China provides markets, tech, and diplomatic cover. Iran trades drones for missile expertise. North Korea sends artillery shells in exchange for food, fuel, and nuclear tech. India buys discounted oil, helping stabilize Russia's revenue. Gulf states walk a careful line, balancing business with everyone. This is not a rigid alliance. It's a network of convenience, each partner gaining what it needs. Together, they form a counterweight to what they see as a use-led order, losing legitimacy. Far from Europe, another front is expanding. Africa. Russian contractors, once Wagner, now restructured under the state, provide security, propaganda, training, and regime protection. In exchange, Russia gains gold and mineral concessions, diplomatic support at the UN, military access. Influence where Western presence is shrinking. This is 21st century empire building, not through colonies, but through contracts, weapons, disinformation, and political leverage, and it works. Russia's long war doesn't stay in Europe, it spreads. Grain exports from Ukraine feed nations across Africa and the Middle East. When war disrupts them, prices rise, governments fall, and unrest spreads. Energy markets swing, inflation spikes. Defense budgets explode. As countries prepare for a world where conflict is normal again, the consequences are global and growing. Europe has woken up, but it may be too late. Rearmament has begun. Stockpiles are being rebuilt. New divisions are forming inside NATO about how much support Ukraine should get and how long it should continue. In democracies, leaders answer to voters. And voters eventually ask, why are we still paying for this war? Russia is waiting for that moment. The Kremlin believes Western unity is temporary, a wave that will peak, then recede. If it does, Russia wins the long war without winning a single major battle. Russia doesn't need complete victory. It doesn't need to conquer Kyiv or rule Ukraine. It needs something simpler, something more realistic. Stop Ukraine from joining the West. Hold on to captured territories. Force the world to accept a new status quo. Prove that borders can be changed by force. Show that Russia's sphere of influence still exists. If Moscow achieves even half of this, it will declare a historic triumph. But the risks are immense. A long war strains society, economy, morale, and trust in leadership. If living standards collapse or casualties grow too high, the very stability Putin seeks to protect could crumble from within. So, can Russia outlast the West? The honest answer: both sides are fighting against time and against themselves. Russia has resilience, manpower, and political control. The West has technology, wealth, and global alliances. But wars of attrition aren't won only on the battlefield. They're won in economies, in parliaments, in living rooms, in public opinion. The side that collapses internally loses the war. In the coming years, the outcome in Ukraine will define whether the post-Cold War world survives, whether force becomes the new normal, whether Russia rises or fractures, and whether great power rivalry returns permanently. One thing is certain: the long war is far from over, and the world will live with its consequences long after the guns fall silent.